Think about this for a moment. From childhood, women are told to be nice, to smile, to never get angry. Yet beneath this surface of sweetness lies a storm, a force society itself fears. That's why religions, traditions, and even modern culture have all created rules to keep the female shadow silent. Ancient myths spoke of witches and temptresses. Modern films portray the crazy ex-girlfriend, or the cold, manipulative woman. These are not random stereotypes. They are projections of the collective fear of the female shadow. When a woman suppresses her anger, her ambition, or her sexuality, that energy doesn't disappear. It waits. It transforms. It hides behind politeness and perfect smiles until the moment it slips out in subtle, destructive ways. A rumor whispered at work. A passive-aggressive remark at dinner. A sudden wave of coldness in a relationship. To the untrained eye, it looks harmless. But Jung revealed it as something much deeper, the silent, destructive current of the shadow. Society doesn't want to admit these truths. The idea that love and resentment can exist side by side in the same heart terrifies us. Yet, it is reality. A mother may cradle her child with affection, and in the same breath, mourn the freedom, the youth, the dreams that slipped away. A friend may congratulate you with a smile, while secretly drowning in jealousy. A wife may play the role of the perfect partner, while quietly harboring fantasies of escape. The shadow does not make women evil. It makes them human. But because society refuses to acknowledge this duality, women are left battling these forbidden emotions in silence, ashamed of their own humanity. This is why perfection is dangerous. The woman who forces herself to be flawless, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter, the perfect professional, is the one most haunted by her shadow. Because every time she denies her darker impulses, she feeds them. And eventually, they claw their way out, not in explosions of rage, but in quiet acts of sabotage. A sudden withdrawal of affection, a silent punishment, a subtle manipulation that no one can ever prove. This is the danger Jung warned about, not the shadow itself, but the refusal to face it. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to see the mother only as a symbol of love, safety, and sacrifice. Society praises her for her endless giving, her boundless care. But Jung dared to reveal something most cultures forbid us to even whisper, that motherhood also holds within it a darker current. A mother can give life, but she can also smother it. She can protect, but she can also imprison. The terrible mother archetype lives not just in literal mothers, but in every woman who uses nurturing as control, love as a chain, care as domination. We see this in families everywhere. The mother who demands her children's loyalty at the cost of their individuality. The partner who insists her control is just love, while slowly draining the freedom of the one she loves. The friend who says, "I just want what's best for you," but secretly fears losing influence if you grow beyond her. It begins so gently, small acts of concern, endless checking in, little sacrifices. But over time, the love becomes a cage. The loved one realizes they are no longer living for themselves but for the endless hunger of someone else's need. This is the terrible mother's embrace, warm on the surface, suffocating beneath. These ancient stories were not exaggerations. They were warnings, coded into myths so we could remember them for generations. Think of the witch who fattens children only to consume them, a perfect symbol of overprotection that turns into destruction. Think of the goddess who requires endless offerings, never satisfied, the mother whose child grows up but never feels free. Think of the femme fatale who drains men, not just of their strength, but of their will to live outside her orbit. These myths survive because they reflect a psychological truth. When feminine energy loses balance, it can become a consuming void. On the surface, such words sound harmless, even loving. But pay attention to the undertone. "I just worry about you" often means, "I don't trust you to live your own life." "I only want what's best" often means, "I want you to choose what keeps me comfortable." This hunger for control is rarely conscious. The woman may truly believe she is helping, but beneath it, the terrible mother archetype is at work, feeding on dependency, terrified of being left behind. This is why it is so hard to expose. Because who can question a mother's love? Who dares accuse someone of suffocating when all they do is give, sacrifice, and serve? This is the genius of the terrible mother. She hides behind the most sacred word in our language, love. By the time the victim realizes the truth, they are already entangled in guilt, bound by duty, unable to separate their own needs from hers. This is the hidden tragedy. Many women never consciously choose this path. It happens slowly, as their own dreams are silenced, their own desires suppressed, their own individuality abandoned. Instead of facing the terror of living for themselves, they live through others, their children, their partners, their friends. And because the hunger for meaning remains unfulfilled, it becomes parasitic. She takes from those around her what she cannot create within. The woman who does not confront her terrible mother becomes not a giver of life, but a devourer of it. Not a source of love, but a well of need. Jung's warning is clear. Confront this archetype, or risk being consumed by it. The animus, the inner masculine voice. The animus is not an enemy. It is a voice, one among many, inside the vast inner council of the psyche. Imagine a woman's mind as a round table. Around it sit her instincts, her creativity, her emotions, her intuition, her shadow, and also her animus. When she mistakes his voice as the only truth, she becomes rigid, logical to the point of coldness, disconnected from her natural flow. But when she recognizes that this voice is only one member of the council, she gains choice. She can listen, weigh, and decide. No longer controlled, she becomes the leader of her own inner kingdom. Balance is the key. The animus brings clarity, logic, structure, and courage, qualities that can protect a woman from being swallowed by emotional storms. But if left unchecked, it can become a tyrant, silencing her intuition and turning her into a copy of what society expects a strong woman to be. True integration is not suppression, but harmony. It is the art of letting reason and intuition walk hand in hand. Think of a river. Feminine energy is its flowing water, intuitive, creative, alive. The animus, when integrated, becomes the riverbank, giving form, direction, and strength to the flow without blocking it. When unbalanced, however, the riverbank becomes a dam, stopping the water, suffocating its movement. That is when women lose their softness, their vitality, their ability to create. Balance ensures the water flows strong, free, yet contained. This is the ultimate reward of animus integration. Wholeness. A woman no longer has to live between extremes, either overly logical and hardened, or overly emotional and unstable. She is no longer at war with herself, pulled between the voices within. Instead, she becomes authentic. Her words match her feelings. Her choices reflect her truth. She is no longer a puppet of unconscious programming, but the conscious author of her own life. The persona is perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all, precisely because it is invisible. Like an actor who wears a mask for so long that she forgets her own face, women often confuse the role they play with who they truly are. The smiling professional, the endlessly patient mother, the perfect partner. These masks win approval, status, and safety, but at a devastating cost: the loss of authenticity. The tragedy of the persona is that it works. It gets her what she thinks she needs: praise, admiration, security. But it is also a prison. Every laugh that doesn't reach her eyes, every "I'm fine" said through clenched teeth, every agreement that hides true disagreement, each one adds another layer to the mask. Until one day, she no longer remembers what her real face looks like beneath it. This is why so many women, even those with seemingly perfect lives, wake up one day with a deep, unshakable emptiness. The job, the family, the social recognition, all of it feels hollow. Why? Because it was built on a mask, not on truth. And the soul cannot live forever in a cage of falsehood. This begins so young, it's almost invisible. A little girl cries too loudly, and she is told she's dramatic. She speaks her mind too directly, and she's labeled rude. But when she's quiet, polite, helpful, she's praised. Slowly, without even realizing it, she begins to edit herself. Piece by piece, she hides away the parts that bring rejection and amplifies the ones that bring approval. By adulthood, what's left is not her authentic self, but a carefully engineered version designed to survive in a world that punishes authenticity. And once chosen, these roles become prisons. The sweet girl must never show anger. The smart girl must never fail. The helpful girl must never say no. The strong girl must never break down. What looks like strength and stability on the outside is often suffocating performance on the inside. This is why it is so seductive. The mask doesn't just hide her truth, it brings her rewards. Promotions at work, praise from family, admiration from peers, even romantic attention. But each reward deepens the trap, convincing her that the mask is her only way to survive. And so she invests more and more energy in polishing the mask, until the real woman beneath is starved of oxygen. This is the cruel paradox. The applause is loud, the likes are many, the approval is constant, and yet, in the quiet moments, when she is alone, she feels the hollowness. She feels the disconnect between the life she performs and the life she truly longs for. But because she's been rewarded for the performance her entire life, questioning it feels terrifying, like stepping off a cliff with no ground beneath her. Think about the exhaustion of this. Every smile rehearsed, every word measured, every expression monitored. It is not living, it is acting. And like any actor who never leaves the stage, she begins to lose touch with where the performance ends and where reality begins. It is like carrying a heavy stone in her chest every single day. The body knows it, the spirit feels it, but because it has been there since childhood, she accepts it as normal. She mistakes her exhaustion for weakness, her anxiety for personal failure, never realizing they are symptoms of the mask itself. This is the darkest irony. The very things she hides are the things that could make her whole. Her anger could fuel her boundaries. Her sexuality could empower her. Her selfishness could protect her energy. Her opinions could give her direction. But buried and denied, these qualities rot inside, poisoning her from within. Have you ever seen someone break down over something small, a minor disagreement, a delayed text, a trivial comment, and wondered why the reaction was so intense? Often, it is not about that small event at all. It is the eruption of years of suppressed emotions, the cracks in the mask finally splitting open. This is how the shadow fights back when it has been buried too long. This is the tragedy of moderation. A woman who dims her light so she won't blind others, who softens her voice so she won't disturb anyone, who edits her brilliance so it won't intimidate, she becomes a shadow of who she could be. Society praises her for being easygoing and pleasant, but beneath the smile, there is silence where her true self should be. She is loved by everyone and known by no one. People describe her as nice, a word so empty it hides the absence of depth. She drifts through conversations without leaving a mark, because how can anyone feel the presence of a person who has buried her real voice? This is why so many women wake up years into relationships feeling unseen. The man did not fall in love with her. He fell in love with the performance. The charming, accommodating, endlessly supportive persona. And when she grows tired of the act and dares to reveal her authentic needs, he recoils. He feels betrayed, not because she lied, but because he fell in love with the mask, not the woman. This is the moment of crisis. Some women double down, polishing the mask, exhausting themselves to preserve the illusion of love. Others take the terrifying risk of removing it, watching as relationships crumble when the truth emerges. Both paths carry pain, but only one leads to freedom. Think of the corporate boardroom. A woman lowers her voice to sound authoritative. She dresses in muted colors so she isn't distracting. She hides her intuition behind data, her empathy behind policy, her creativity behind reports. She rises in the ranks, but each step upward feels emptier. Success tastes like ashes because it was bought at the cost of her authenticity. The image of the perfect mother is perhaps the heaviest mask of all. She smiles while exhausted. She nurtures while empty. She hides her tears so her children won't see. And when she feels anger or despair, she buries it in silence, fearing judgment. But motherhood was never meant to be performance. It was meant to be raw, human, imperfect. Yet the mask forces her into sainthood, and sainthood is a prison. Scroll through any feed and you will see the masks glowing back at you. Perfect vacations, smiling families, filtered faces, every photo polished, every caption rehearsed. But what you don't see is the tears after the photo is taken, the loneliness behind the smile, the exhaustion behind the filter. The gap between what is shown and what is lived grows wider, until the mask no longer protects, it suffocates. This is the cruelest irony. When she most needs to be real, she becomes the most fake. The moment of crisis, when she could reach for authentic connection, she hides deeper behind the mask. Fear teaches her to polish the illusion, to tighten the performance, to perfect the lie. Answer: the very thing that promises safety drives her further from the freedom she needs. This is why midlife crises are not reserved for men. A woman at 40 may wake up and realize she doesn't know her favorite food, her deepest desire, or her true beliefs. Because every choice was filtered through the question, will they approve? Will they love me? Will they stay? When the applause fades, she is left with silence, and no idea who she is without the mask. To tear off the mask is to risk everything, but to keep it is to lose yourself. This is the brutal choice Jung forces us to face. The collapse of the false life is terrifying, but in its ruins lies something unbreakable, the authentic self. The woman who dares to step out of performance and into truth may lose applause, but she will gain her soul. The primitive fear of abandonment. Imagine this. Thousands of years ago, a woman alone in the wilderness was doomed. She could not hunt large game. She could not defend herself from predators. She could not survive childbirth without help. Survival meant connection, tribe, family, mate. To be abandoned was not heartbreak. It was death. And though the world has changed, the body remembers. The fear is written into her very nervous system. This is what makes it so insidious. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It hides inside politeness, inside caretaking, inside compliance. A woman says yes when she wants to say no. She agrees with opinions she doesn't believe. She sacrifices her needs to keep others comfortable. On the surface, it looks like kindness. Underneath, it is survival. Every forced smile is a shield against abandonment. Every overextended favor is a silent plea. Don't leave me. Don't reject me. Don't disappear. What looks like generosity is often desperation. And what looks like love is often fear in disguise. This is why some women endure cruelty, neglect, or betrayal for years. To outsiders it looks irrational. But inside, the logic is primitive. Better to be hurt than to be alone. Better to be mistreated than abandoned. The terror of isolation is stronger than the pain of mistreatment. Her worth rises and falls like a stock market, dependent on the attention of others. A returned text makes her feel valuable. Silence makes her feel worthless. She becomes a mirror, reflecting back what others see in her, forgetting she has a light of her own. This is why some women dim their brilliance. They underplay their intelligence, hide their ambition, minimize their victories. Because somewhere deep inside, the ancient program whispers, if you shine too brightly, you will be left alone. So they shrink, not out of humility, but out of fear of exile. This is why even the most loving partner cannot erase the fear. Even endless reassurance cannot silence it. Because the fear is not about him. It is not about now. It is about survival written into the bones of womanhood. And no promise can erase instincts carved by thousands of years of evolution. Freedom does not mean erasing fear. It means facing it. It means feeling the racing heartbeat, the tightening chest, the suffocating dread, and refusing to let it dictate your choices. It means daring to say no, even when it risks rejection. Daring to speak truth, even when it risks distance. Daring to be alone, and discovering you will not die. This is the rebirth of a woman who refuses to be ruled by the ancient terror. The shadow, the animus, the persona, the abandonment fear. Each one whispers in the dark, shaping choices, bending relationships, controlling destinies. To ignore them is to live as a puppet, dancing on invisible strings. To confront them is to step into the terrifying, beautiful realm of freedom. The map is not easy to follow. It requires brutal honesty. It demands the courage to look in the mirror and see not the mask, but the hidden face beneath. It requires admitting the anger, the jealousy, the fear, the craving for approval. But once seen, these forces lose their chains. What once enslaved her becomes integrated. What once controlled her becomes her ally. This is the challenge. Will you keep polishing the mask? Will you keep obeying the inner tyrant of the animus? Will you keep hiding your shadow and surrendering to the fear of abandonment? Or will you dare, even for a moment, to live unmasked, unchained, authentic? The unconscious does not wait. It shapes every word, every choice, every relationship. You can close your eyes to it, but it will not close its eyes to you. The only difference is whether you live asleep or awake, whether you are ruled by the shadows or walk with them as allies. The truths Jung uncovered are not comfortable, but they are the doorway to freedom. The only question is, will you walk through?